and welcome to Learning with Lulu. In this video, we are going to try and quickly summarize Chapter 9 in Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. Now, this is the concluding chapter of The Great Gatsby, and so this is the end. This is wrapping everything up. So, our narration from Nick is taking place a couple of years after Gatsby's funeral. And it's a chapter that shows us a really irritated Nick. In short, Gatsby's funeral was very poorly attended, where everyone had been just showing up to parties that he was hosting. Now everyone essentially just kind of disappears and is disinterested in this man after his death, post-mortem. And it's like he was a person of convenience for so many people. This chapter is a really questioning critique of the American dream. You know, the American dream is that anyone, no matter where they're from or who they are or what their beginning circumstances are, if they work hard enough, can attain abundance. And I think so often people think of that as fiscal or financial money abundance. And, you know, I don't think that's always what it's about. I think, you know, it can mean wealth of family, of joy, of peace, but very often it's just associated with the money aspect. And, you know, this chapter is Nick talking about how perhaps it isn't as attainable. There is a bit of talk in this chapter about the differences between the West and the East. Now, technically, anything west of, I want to say like Istanbul or like of Turkey, of Eastern Europe, anything west of that is considered the West, is democratic. But in America, Nick does kind of see it as these different regions. And, you know, the United States as an America, you know, the continent of America, it moved from Eastern, you know, across the ocean from the East to be its own thing in the West. You know, it tried to move away from England specifically with the Revolution and its hierarchy of social classes, of its aristocracy. And yet, you know, our main characters in this book, Daisy, Tom, Nick, Gatsby, are all people from the West who are now in the East and trying to live this aristocratic life. So just like we've been critiquing Gatsby this whole time for trying to live in the past, that's what they're all doing in this portrayal of the American dream. It's being in this hierarchy of, you know, an American aristocracy. So anyway, to get into it, Nick describes the time surrounding Gatsby's funeral. After the murder of Gatsby, his mansion was swarmed with journalists, with young kids who are just kind of curious and want to see this grotesque, you know, this place of murder, and with reporters all wanting to see this tragedy. You know, everyone's interested. Gossip surrounding Gatsby and Myrtle, even though Gatsby and Myrtle never had a relationship, gossip springs up around that because, you know, Tom has allowed that to be what everyone believes happened. And there's just a bunch of exaggeration, a bunch of lies and false narratives around now Gatsby's death even. Now, Nick figures that Gatsby would not want to have a unattended funeral. So Nick tries to make sure that Gatsby has a funeral that he thinks he deserves, that is reflective of this person who did try so hard for the American dream and who did network and host these beautiful parties that everyone attended. And Nick gets really irritated because almost no one shows up for Gatsby's funeral. The sole attendees of the funeral are Nick, Gatsby's father, whose name is Henry Gatz, and we can tell just kind of this Henry Gatz is fascinated by his own son, as we'll get into, and Owl Eyes, so the man who had been in the library thinking that the books had to have been fake, but then he was like, they're not fake books, they're real. Owl Eyes was there. And I think that's an interesting little note. Let me know what you think that means down below about Owl Eyes being one of the sole people in attendance. I think perhaps it's a reflection of this man who, you know, Nick calls Owl Eyes, who kind of takes everything in and questions the validity of things, but then finds them to not be hollow. Maybe it's a reflection of this guy actually admiring that Gatsby did achieve so much. So maybe Owl Eyes is kind of a true believer of the American dream, and he does admire Gatsby. I don't know, let me know what you think. But yeah, Gatsby's funeral is very poor attended. Tom and Daisy disappear with no forwarding address. They aren't going to be in attendance at Gatsby's funeral. That bothers Nick. Nick tries to get Meyer Wolfsheim and Klipspringer. Remember, Klipspringer is like the guy who plays the piano for them. He tries to get them to come. Wolfsheim is like, oh yeah, I don't want to like be associated with anything shady such as Gatsby's death because, you know, he's already a shady guy, so he doesn't want any of that on him. And it gets really upset with the Klipspringer guy because he's kind of like, yeah, I'll try and come. I already have another thing I'm going to. But he's not really saying like, yeah, I will be at my friend Gatsby's funeral. He's just kind of dancing around it. And then he's like, by the way, Nick, could you send me my shoes that are at Gatsby's place? And Nick is just fed up and he's disgusted by all of these people who claimed to be friends and acquaintances of Gatsby. And so he hangs up on this Klipspringer. And yeah, it's a really small funeral. Like I said, it's Nick, Henry Gatz. A few servants actually do come, and Owl Eyes. Now, a little bit about Henry Gatz. Like I said, he's very fascinated by his son. He shows Nick Nick is telling us a little bit about this Henry Gatz. He had a book that had been James Gatz when he was little, and in it he had written like a daily plan, a daily routine of self-improvement. And Nick says that when Henry, so Gatsby's father, is showing it to him, it's almost kind of like, look at this, like my son achieved so much, kind of like, oh, you should kind of write this down yourself. I don't think he says that, but it's very much this, my son achieved so much, he was so intelligent, so capable, and look at what he achieved. This Henry Gatz, he has a picture of, Gatsby's mansion, and he holds on to it, and he's in awe of his son a little bit. And I find it quite sad because, Jay Gatsby very much tried to disassociate himself from his humble origins. And you do get the sense that he stayed in contact with his dad, but I almost wonder if he was a little embarrassed by his father. And so even though he took care of him, stayed in contact with him, it's not like he said, hey, come live with me. Maybe his father wouldn't even want that. I don't know. But this Henry Gatz is really dumbfounded by all that his son had been able to amass. And he does fill Nick in a little bit on young James Gatz. And like I said, he shows him this schedule in this book that he had. The funeral happens, that passes, and our narrator, Nick Carraway, he tells us he's tired of the East, he's tired of its values, and he decides that he is going to move back to the Midwest. It's kind of funny because he does kind of idealize the West and its values, and he reflects on almost kind of, to use the term, I want to say like how hygge, you know, that Danish word for coziness, he romanticizes the West, the Midwest a little bit, and you get the sense that he does view it as a little bit more wholesome. He says that he is going to end his relationship with Jordan, who then Jordan just out of the blue is like, yeah, anyway, I'm engaged to someone else anyway. Which, I mean, Jordan's moral character has kind of been questionable this whole time. From before even Nick knew her, the thing he knew about her before they even engaged in forming a relationship was that he thinks that she had lied about some golf tournament. So she continues to kind of just do her thing, which more power to her. I don't know. I don't like her. I don't think she's the worst character either. I think that Fitzgerald is perhaps just kind of portraying someone who's, I think in Jordan he's kind of trying to portray someone who's just kind of toes the line, is very neutral, and tries to portray a somewhat real person that, you know, no one's wholly good or wholly bad. You know, everyone's just kind of somewhere in between. Before Nick leaves New York, he does see Tom, who insists on shaking Nick's hand, and Nick doesn't want to at first. He doesn't like Tom. Eventually he concedes, but Tom continues to be a disgusting character. He talks about how hard the whole situation around Gatsby's death was for him, and he has really no guilt about telling George. He is the one that said, yeah, Jay Gatsby's the one who owns the car that killed your wife, and he thinks that Gatsby deserved to die. He tells Nick as much. As I've expressed, Nick recognizes then that Daisy and Tom really are just careless people who are very much shielded from consequences because of their money, and they're very careless with people and things. I've expressed I think they're careless with their daughter, just being a small example of that, and they know that their wealth will shield them from really taking consequences for any of their actions. And the book ends with Nick going over to Gatsby's house, I want to say like the night before he does move back to the Midwest, and he, in the quiet, just kind of takes it all in. On the steps of Gatsby's mansion, someone has written something obscene. It doesn't tell us what, but Nick like cleans it off. I want to say like he kind of cleans it off with his foot. I'm not sure what the obscene word is, but I assume it's something critical of Gatsby. Nick, at this time, he watches the moon rise, and he thinks about the parallels of Gatsby having this American dream and the green light symbolizing his American dream, and he thinks about the people who not first came to this land. There were entire nations of people in the Americas before any Europeans came over. But he thinks about the Europeans who came over and then went on to form the colonies in the United States of America, and how they had this American dream in this land full of like green, abundant trees and beauty. Yeah, he just has that parallel of America being the land of dreams, just as Daisy was a dream for Gatsby. And he talks about the parallels there. There's just a little bit of a critique on the American dream. How attainable may it be? Is it always hollow and empty? Do we try and hold on to things past their prime after they've already ended, just as Gatsby did? It just kind of wonders, like, where are we all in our dreams? And I think maybe it's a commentary that our dreams need to not be on trying to recapture something in the past, and that maybe we all just need to read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and practice gratitude for the present and being wholly in the now, because trying to recreate a past joy should not be the motivation of a dream. We have to move forward. We shouldn't be rowing against the stream, but we should just find joy and gratitude in the presence, in the present moment. There you go. There's a life message for you from the somewhat disheartening message of The Great Gatsby. That's essentially chapter 9 for you. I would love to know your thoughts on what you think this book is saying about the American dream, about how attainable it is, about trying to reclaim the past, of the whole Western versus Eastern duality, which, I mean, oh my goodness, is even reflected in West Egg, East Egg, and then we have Eastern USA, Western USA, all being trying to be a form of reclaiming of, Europe versus the Americas. So it's like a microcosm, I think is the term. They're all fractals of each other, and if you just keep on going in and in and in, it's this binary of the East versus the West. And yeah, there's a bit to decipher there and to analyze. If you would like a video kind of more analyzing the overall theme and meaning and different aspects of The Great Gatsby, let me know. So far, summary videos seem to be what most people need most from this channel, so I try and put a lot of attention and energy there. But if you would like a deeper analysis of various novels, let me know. Let me know what books you would like more in-depth looks at. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share not only this video, but share the entire playlist of these Great Gatsby chapter summaries with others that you know may benefit. And I hope to see you back around. Thank you for your support of this channel, and thanks for watching.